The massive crystal dome of the Grand Hall sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside, hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising circular tiers, their voices mixing into a worried murmur. This was the first emergency meeting of the Galactic Council in 50 years, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. High Counselor Rex stood at the central platform, his tall, silver-skinned figure commanding attention. His four eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among his kind. The display behind him showed red dots spreading across a map of the galaxy, each dot representing another world falling to the plague. "The situation is worse than we feared," Rex announced, his translator making his words clear to all present. "The plague has now reached 37 major worlds. Our best estimates suggest it will infect half the galaxy within 2 months." The murmuring grew louder. A representative from the warrior Drachnid race stood up, his scaled armor clicking. "Then we must act now. We know where to find the cure." "Indeed." Rex nodded, touching a control panel. The display changed to show a planet that glowed angry red and orange. "The mineral we need grows only in the volcanic caves of planet Infernus. Its temperatures reach 600 degrees on the surface. The caves we need to reach are even hotter." Captain Mike Thompson of the Earth Alliance sat quietly in the human section, taking notes on his tablet. Unlike the other representatives who wore ceremonial or minimal clothing, he was dressed in a standard Earth Alliance uniform with all its safety features. Some nearby aliens gave him the usual looks of mild contempt. Humans and their obsession with protective gear. "The Drachnid Empire volunteers for this noble quest," the scaled warrior announced. "We will bring glory to." "Your last mission to Infernus lost an entire squad," Rex interrupted. "The Mercurians." A being made of living metal stood up. "Our kind can withstand great heat, but even we cannot survive the deeper caves. The mineral formations are too unstable." One by one, the greatest spacefaring races of the galaxy admitted defeat. The mighty Drachnids, the energy beings of Luminara, even the silicon-based life forms. None could find a safe way to harvest the needed minerals. "So we watch our worlds die," someone shouted from the upper tiers. "There must be a way." Thompson looked at his tablet again, reviewing the data. His eyes narrowed as he studied the atmospheric readings, the cave structures, the mineral composition. Finally, he stood up. The movement was so quiet and unassuming that it took several moments for anyone to notice. "The humans wish to speak," Rex asked, surprise evident in his voice. "You understand we're discussing planet Infernus, the world that makes your Earth's volcanoes look like ice cubes." A few chuckles echoed through the chamber. Everyone knew humans were obsessed with safety protocols. They never went anywhere without triple-checking their equipment, insisted on redundant systems for everything, and always had backup plans for their backup plans. "Yes, High Counselor," Thompson said calmly. "We've been studying the data. We believe we can retrieve the minerals safely." The laughter grew louder. A Drachnid warrior called out, "Your people won't even travel through an asteroid field without plotting every rock's trajectory." Thompson smiled slightly. "Exactly. We plan. We prepare. We take precautions. And we succeed." He tapped his tablet, sending data to the main display. "We've already designed specialized suits for the environment. We have drilling equipment that can function in extreme heat. Most importantly, we have experience with complex mining operations under dangerous conditions." The laughter died down as more representatives studied the human designs. They were thorough, detailed, and accounted for nearly every possible problem. "You would risk your people for this?" Rex asked, genuinely curious. "Your kind is known for being cautious." "There's a difference between being cautious and being cowardly, High Counselor," Thompson replied. "We respect danger enough to prepare for it properly. And yes, we're willing to help, because sometimes the biggest risk is not taking action when action is needed." A profound silence fell over the Grand Hall. The mighty races of the galaxy found themselves looking at the humans in a new light. Perhaps, just perhaps, what they had always seen as cowardice was something else entirely. Rex studied Thompson for a long moment before nodding slowly. The Council recognizes Earth's offer. Captain Thompson, how soon can your team be ready? Thompson's answer was immediate and confident. We already are. After the Council meeting, Captain Thompson walked through the curved hallways of the space station, ignoring the strange looks from passing aliens. His tablet beeped with incoming messages from Earth Command. They had been watching the whole meeting through his feed. Captain, a voice called out. Thompson turned to see a Drachnid warrior approaching, his scales gleaming under the artificial lights. I am Commander Krull. I lost 3 brothers in our attempt to reach those caves. Thompson stopped, showing respect by giving the warrior his full attention. I'm sorry for your loss, Commander. You humans, Krull's translator struggled to convey his complex emotions. You really think your safety measures will work where our courage failed? The question brought back memories. Thompson remembered his first day at the Earth Alliance Academy, when his instructor had shown the class a historical video. It was footage from humanity's first contact with alien life, 50 years ago. Let me show you something, Thompson said, pulling up the video on his tablet. This is why we're so careful. The video showed humans meeting with the Drachnids for the first time. The Earth representatives wore full environmental suits, while the Drachnids stood proudly in their ceremonial armor. In the background, several aliens could be seen laughing at the cautious humans. 3 days after this meeting, Thompson explained, 27 humans who didn't wear protective gear died from an alien bacteria. It was harmless to Drachnids, but deadly to us. Since then, we've learned that being careful keeps us alive. Krull's inner eyelids blinked in surprise. But surely now, with modern medicines, we still wear the suits, Thompson nodded, because every time we think we know everything about space, it surprises us. That's why we're perfect for this mission. His tablet beeped again. Dr. Anna Miller, Earth's leading volcanic specialist, had already sent preliminary suit designs. Thompson showed these to Krull. See these suits? Triple-layered cooling systems, backup power supplies, emergency beacons in every layer. If one system fails, 2 more take its place. We call it redundancy. It seems excessive, Krull said, but his tone had changed from mocking to curious. Let me ask you something, Thompson said. When your brothers went to Infernus, what kind of protection did they have? Krull stood straighter, proud. They wore the finest heat-resistant armor our empire could provide. 1 layer of protection, Thompson noted quietly, and when it failed, the Drachnid warrior's shoulders slumped slightly. They had no backup plan. Thompson's tablet displayed more incoming data. Engineer Tom Roberts had already modified their mining equipment for the extreme conditions. Every drill, every tool, every scanner would have multiple backup systems. This is how we work, Thompson explained. We plan for everything that could go wrong. Then we plan for our plans going wrong. It's not about being afraid. It's about respecting the dangers enough to prepare for them properly. Krull studied the human designs with new interest. Your people spend so much time preparing. Doesn't it slow you down? Better slow than dead, Thompson replied with a slight smile. But here's the interesting part. Because we prepare so well, we can actually work faster in dangerous conditions. We don't have to stop and solve problems because we've already planned for them. More aliens had gathered around them, listening to the conversation. A Mercurian scientist stepped forward, her metallic form shimmering. Captain, she said, our records show that humans have never lost a crew in a volcanic expedition. How is this possible? Thompson pulled up more files on his tablet. These are our safety protocols. Every procedure, every piece of equipment, every backup system. They're all based on lessons learned from near misses and close calls. We document everything that almost goes wrong, so we can prevent it from going wrong next time. The gathered aliens began sharing looks of dawning understanding. What they had mocked as cowardice was starting to look more like wisdom. Your team, Krull said finally. They're ready for this. Thompson's tablet showed the final confirmation from Earth Command. A team of specialists was already boarding the ship, their equipment tested and double-tested, their plans reviewed and approved. "We've been ready for challenges like this since we first looked up at the stars," Thompson replied. "Because in space, there's no such thing as being too careful." The Earth Alliance's main research facility buzzed with activity. In the central lab, Dr. Anna Miller stood before a holographic display of planet Infernus, her eyes focused on the swirling patterns of heat and pressure. Around her, 20 of Earth's best scientists and engineers worked at their stations, each tackling a different part of their massive challenge. "The main problem isn't just the heat," she explained to the alien observers who had come to watch the humans prepare. "It's the combination of heat, pressure, and toxic gases. We have to plan for all of them." The aliens watched in silence as she pulled up the design for their protective suits. Unlike the bulky armor of other species, the human suits looked almost delicate with their multiple thin layers. Each layer serves a different purpose. Tom Roberts explained from his workstation. The engineer pointed to the outer shell. "This layer reflects heat. Under it, we have cooling systems, then air filtration, then the pressure management system. If any layer fails, the others keep working." A Mercurian scientist stepped forward, her metallic form glinting under the lab lights. "This seems needlessly complex. Surely one strong layer would be more reliable." Dr. Miller smiled and picked up what looked like a piece of the suit material. "Would you like to test that theory?" She walked over to a testing chamber. "This is set to the exact conditions we'll face on Infernus." The demonstration that followed left the alien observers speechless. They watched as single-layer materials, even the strongest ones, failed within minutes. But the human design, with its multiple layers working together, maintained its integrity. "Now for the really interesting part," Tom said, moving to another station. He pulled up the designs for their drilling equipment. "We're not just going in to grab samples. We need to set up a permanent mining operation so we can produce enough of the cure." The drilling machines he showed them looked nothing like the powerful, straightforward tools other species used. These were smaller, more precise, and had what seemed like an endless array of sensors and backup systems. "We don't just drill," he explained. "We constantly scan the rock structure. We monitor pressure changes. We check for gas pockets. Every piece of data helps us work safely." A Drachnid warrior who had been watching silently finally spoke up. "This will take too long. The plague spreads while you test and retest." Dr. Miller pulled up a timeline on the main display. "Actually, our careful approach will be faster in the long run. Look at the data from your previous attempts. How much time was lost to equipment failures, to injuries, to having to restart after accidents?" The numbers told a clear story. While the human approach required more preparation time, it would be more efficient once they began the actual work. They wouldn't need to stop for repairs or replacements. They wouldn't lose time to accidents or injuries. As the day progressed, more alien observers arrived at the facility. They watched as the humans tested and refined their equipment. Every test failure was treated not as a setback, but as valuable data to improve their designs. "Here's something that might interest you," Dr. Miller said later, gathering the observers around a smaller display. "We studied the reports from your previous attempts. Each failure taught us something important." She showed them how each feature of their equipment and suits was designed to prevent a specific type of failure that had happened before. The humans hadn't just made their own plans. They had learned from everyone else's mistakes. The day ended with a final test of the complete system. The aliens watched as a suited figure entered the testing chamber, now set to conditions even worse than those on Infernus. The suit performed perfectly. Every backup system worked as planned. Every safety measure proved its worth. As the test concluded, one of the alien observers turned to Dr. Miller. "You humans spend so much time preparing for things to go wrong," he said. "Don't you ever just trust in your equipment?" Dr. Miller's response summed up the human approach perfectly. "We trust our equipment precisely because we don't just trust our equipment. We verify. We test. We prepare. That's not fear. That's respect for the challenges we face. In the background, the countdown clock continued its steady march. In 24 hours, the human team would launch for planet Infernus. They would face one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. But unlike those who had tried before, they would face it fully prepared. The human ship approached planet Infernus, its white hull reflecting the angry red glow of the volcanic world below. In the observation room, alien observers watched as the human crew performed their final equipment checks. Unlike the tense, nervous atmosphere they expected, the humans worked with calm efficiency. Beginning descent in 5 minutes, Captain Thompson announced from the bridge. All team members report status. Dr. Miller looked up from her console, where she monitored the environmental readings. Suit systems all green. Triple-checked and verified. Mining equipment secure and ready, Tom Roberts added, his fingers moving across his control panel. All backup systems responding normally. The alien observers exchanged glances. They had never seen a mission start so quietly. Where was the dramatic speech? The boasting of glory to come? The humans just worked, checked, and double-checked everything. The ship descended through the upper atmosphere, its special heat shields glowing bright orange. The first warning alarm sounded, exactly as the humans had predicted it would. External temperature rising above primary threshold, the ship's computer announced, switching to secondary cooling system. Commander Krull, watching from the observation room, tensed. Among his people, a system failure meant trouble, but the humans barely seemed to notice. Exactly as simulated, Thompson said calmly. Secondary system performing within expected parameters. The ship continued its descent through clouds of toxic gas and flying volcanic debris. Each time a system reached its limit, another smoothly took over. The aliens watched in growing amazement as every problem the humans encountered had already been planned for. Landing zone in view, the pilot announced. Sensors detecting higher surface temperatures than expected. In previous missions, such news would have caused panic. Instead, Dr. Miller pulled up a new set of calculations. Adjusting cooling systems to compensate. We planned for temperatures up to 20% higher than this. The ship landed with a gentle touch on a relatively stable piece of rock. Through the external cameras, they could see rivers of lava flowing nearby. The air shimmered with heat, and occasional bursts of toxic gas shot from nearby vents. Beginning surface team deployment, Thompson announced. Dr. Miller, you have command of the ground operation. The first team of humans emerged from the ship, their layered suits gleaming in the red light. They moved carefully but confidently, their movements practiced from countless simulations. First environmental readings coming in. Dr. Miller reported from inside her suit. Conditions matched simulation scenario B7. Proceeding with appropriate protocols. The alien observers watched as the humans set up their base camp. Every piece of equipment had been designed to work in these extreme conditions. Every movement was practiced and precise. Look at this, Commander Krull said to his fellow observers, pointing at a screen showing the humans' vital signs. Their heart rates are barely elevated. They're not even scared. Why should we be? Tom Roberts replied over the comm system as he set up a drilling station. We know exactly what we're doing. Fear comes from uncertainty. We've eliminated as much uncertainty as we can. A sudden burst of toxic gas erupted from a nearby vent, the kind of surprise that had doomed previous missions. But the humans had planned for this too. Sensors detected the gas cloud before it reached them, and their suits automatically adjusted their filtration systems. Gas emission logged and analyzed, Dr. Miller reported. Updating our geological map. Team 2, adjust your patrol route accordingly. Hour by hour, the humans established their presence on the lethal surface of Infernus. They set up monitoring stations, tested drilling sites, and mapped the surrounding area. Every step was careful, considered, and successful. As the first day on the surface drew to a close, the alien observers had fallen silent. They watched as the humans efficiently rotated their surface teams, each member following decontamination procedures perfectly before entering the ship. Day 1 complete, Thompson announced. All objectives met, no casualties, all systems functioning within parameters. Commander Krell turned to the Mercurian scientist beside him. "I think," he said slowly, "we have been wrong about humans all along. This isn't Cordis we're seeing. This is mastery." 3 days into the mission, Planet Infernus decided to show why it had defeated every previous attempt to mine its resources. The ground began to shake, and the lava rivers around the human base camp started to rise. Volcanic activity increasing. The automated warning system announced, "Major eruption imminent." In the command center of the human ship, Captain Thompson watched as red warning indicators lit up across his displays. The alien observers held their breath, expecting to see panic. Instead, they saw something remarkable. Initiating Protocol Omega, Dr. Miller announced calmly from her position on the surface. "All teams, you know the drill. This is exactly what we practiced for." The humans on the surface moved with practiced precision. Each team had a specific role, and they performed them perfectly. Some secured equipment, others gathered samples, and a third group monitored the changing conditions. "Lava flow will reach the base camp in 15 minutes, Tom Roberts reported from his monitoring station. "Primary escape route will be cut off in 10 minutes. Commander Krall stepped forward on the ship. "You must evacuate now. You'll be trapped." Thompson smiled slightly. "Watch and learn, Commander. This is why we plan for everything." He pressed a button on his console. "Surface team, initiate secondary base deployment." The aliens watched in amazement as the humans activated machinery they had set up on their first day, equipment that had seemed unnecessary at the time. Metal barriers rose from the ground, creating channels that directed the lava flow away from critical areas. Cooling systems activated, solidifying the lava into new protective walls. "Secondary base location secured," Dr. Miller reported. "Beginning equipment transfer." All according to evacuation plan C4. A massive explosion rocked the area as a new volcanic vent opened. Toxic gases poured out, and rocks the size of small ships flew through the air. But the humans had planned for this too. "Activating emergency shields," Tom announced. The protective barriers they had installed snapped into place, creating safe corridors for the teams to move through. The alien observers watched the humans' vital signs. Despite the chaos around them, their heart rates remained steady. Their movements stayed calm and precise. This wasn't just training. This was something more. "Dr. Miller," Thompson called out suddenly. "Sensors show a new lava flow heading toward mining site B. The mineral deposits will be lost." This was the moment the aliens expected the humans to give up. The mission was already dangerous enough. Surely they wouldn't risk everything just to save some mineral deposits. But Dr. Miller was already moving. "Team 3 with me. Activate your enhanced cooling systems. We're going to try something new." The aliens watched as Miller's team approached the advancing lava flow. They deployed portable force fields, technology they had developed but never had to use until now. The fields created a tunnel through the heat and gas. "New path established," Miller reported. "Tom, bring the mobile mining unit. We have exactly 7 minutes to extract those minerals before the force fields fail." What followed was a display of precision and teamwork that left the alien observers speechless. The humans didn't just save the minerals. They used the crisis to discover a better way to mine them. The heat from the eruption has actually made the mineral veins more accessible, Miller explained as her team worked. "If we adjust our methods, we can extract more material in less time." As the crisis passed, the humans had not only survived, they had improved their position. The new lava flows, once cooled, created natural barriers that made their mining operations safer. The emergency measures they had developed would make future work more efficient. Back on the ship, Commander Krell turned to Captain Thompson. "You knew this would happen," he said. "It wasn't a question." Thompson nodded. "We studied every failed mission to this planet. Everyone ended when a major eruption hit. So we didn't just plan how to survive an eruption. We planned how to use it to our advantage. And if your plans had failed? The Mercurian scientist asked. Then we would have used one of our backup plans, Thompson replied simply. And if those failed, we would have learned from the failure and made better plans for next time. That's the human way. The aliens looked out at the transformed landscape, where human ingenuity had turned a disaster into an opportunity. Perhaps they realized this was what true courage looked like, not fearless charging into danger, but the wisdom and determination to face danger intelligently. 1 week after surviving the major eruption, the human operation on planet Infernus had transformed into something no other species had thought possible: a stable mining facility. Where others had tried quick, desperate grabs for the precious minerals, the humans had built something that would last. Dr. Miller stood at the main control station of the new mining complex, watching the automated drills work with steady precision. The facility was a marvel of engineering, with every safety system working in perfect harmony. Behind her, a group of alien observers watched in fascination. "Today's the big day," she announced, checking her displays. "We're ready to begin full-scale extraction." The aliens had expected this moment to be tense. After all, this was the largest attempt to harvest the critical minerals in galactic history. Instead, the humans seemed almost relaxed as they went through their usual safety checks. All environmental systems functioning normally, Tom Roberts reported from his station. Heat shields at 100%. Gas filtration optimal. Backup systems standing by. Captain Thompson's voice came through the comm system from the orbiting ship above. Weather satellites show stable conditions for the next 6 hours. Perfect window for the main extraction. The massive drilling machines, designed specifically for this mission, hummed to life. Unlike the brutal mining equipment other species had tried to use, these were almost elegant in their precision. They didn't fight against the planet's incredible heat and pressure. They worked with it. "First mineral vein accessed," Miller announced. "Purity levels are even better than we hoped. The enforced cooling process has actually crystallized the minerals perfectly." Commander Krull, who had stayed to watch the entire operation, stepped forward. "How is this possible? Our best miners couldn't get half this quality." Tom smiled as he adjusted some controls. "Because they tried to fight the planet's conditions. We designed our equipment to use those conditions. The heat that killed other teams, we use it to help purify the minerals. The pressure that crushed other machines, it helps concentrate the deposits." The extraction continued hour after hour without a single problem. Every time the sensors detected a potential issue, automated systems adjusted before it could become dangerous. The humans had created a system that was both incredibly complex and remarkably stable. "Look at this," a Mercurian scientist said, pointing to a display showing the safety logs. "Not a single emergency shutdown. Not one injury. Not even a minor equipment failure." "That's because we never push our equipment to its limits," Miller explained. "Everything operates at 75% capacity. Gives us room to handle surprises without strain." As the day progressed, the storage containers began to fill with pure, perfectly processed minerals. The humans had not only succeeded in their mission, they had exceeded every expectation. "Final numbers coming in," Thompson announced from orbit. "We've harvested enough minerals to produce cure supplies for half the infected worlds. And this facility can keep producing more." The aliens watched as the human teams began their end-of-shift procedures. Every step was checked and double-checked. Every system was carefully monitored. The same careful approach that had got them this far would ensure they stayed successful. "I must admit," Commander Krull said to Miller, "when your captain first volunteered for this mission, I thought your human caution would make you too slow, too hesitant. But now I understand. You're not cautious because you're afraid. You're cautious because that's how you win." Miller nodded as she supervised the securing of another batch of minerals. "There's an old saying on Earth: slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. By taking the time to do things right, we actually get better results faster than rushing in. The day ended with a remarkable achievement: the first successful large-scale harvest of the cure minerals in galactic history. The humans had not only survived Planet Infernus, they had mastered it. "You know what the best part is?" Tom said as they watched the last container being sealed. "Everything we learned here, all the systems we developed, we can share this with other worlds. No species will ever have to die trying to mine these minerals again." And that perhaps was the greatest victory of all. The humans hadn't just completed a mission. They had created a legacy that would save lives for generations to come. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different from 2 weeks ago. The worried faces and tense atmosphere had been replaced with something new: hope. Captain Thompson stood at the central platform, but this time he wasn't volunteering for a desperate mission. He was presenting the results. "The first batches of the cure have already reached 12 infected worlds," he reported, his voice calm and steady. "Production continues at the Infernus facility, supervised by Dr. Miller's team. Within 1 month, we'll have enough for every infected planet in the galaxy." High Counselor Rex's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, this time in amazement rather than distress. "And there have been no casualties. No equipment losses." "None," Thompson confirmed. "In fact, we've improved our processes since the initial setup. The facility is now operating at 120% of projected capacity, while still maintaining all safety margins." The council chamber erupted in conversation. Representatives from dozens of worlds stood to ask questions, not about the cure, that was working perfectly, but about the humans' methods. "The Human Alliance has prepared detailed documentation," Thompson continued, sending files to the Council's central database. "Everything we learned, every system we developed, every safety protocol we created, it's all here for any world that wants to use it." Commander Krull, now speaking as the Drachnid representative, stood up. "My people have always believed that courage meant facing danger without fear. The humans have taught us that true courage means facing danger with wisdom." The Mercurian scientist who had observed the mission added her voice. "We call them cowards because they insisted on safety measures. Now we understand that their caution wasn't weakness. It was their greatest strength." Thompson pulled up images from the Infernus facility. The alien observers who had watched the mission had taken hundreds of pictures and videos, documenting how the humans turned what seemed like an impossible task into a routine operation. "But what happens next?" asked a representative from one of the newly cured worlds. "Will humans continue to help us?" "We've already begun training programs," Thompson explained. "Dr. Miller is leading classes in environmental safety protocols. Engineer Roberts is teaching equipment maintenance and design. We're not just sharing our technology, we're sharing our way of thinking." The images changed to show alien crews working alongside humans at the facility, learning the careful, methodical approach that had proven so successful. Species that had once mocked human caution were now eagerly adopting their methods. "The plague crisis is ending," High Counselor Rex announced. "But perhaps we have gained something even more valuable than the cure. We have learned a new way of facing challenges." As if to emphasize his point, alerts came in from across the galaxy. Mining accidents, once common, had dropped to near zero on worlds that adopted human safety protocols. Exploration missions were reporting higher success rates using human-style preparation methods. Even military operations were seeing better results with more careful planning. "There's an old human saying," Thompson said, looking around the chamber. "Success isn't about being fearless. It's about respecting the challenges enough to prepare for them properly." The council session ended with an unprecedented decision. The human approach to safety and preparation would become the new standard for all galactic operations. Their cowardly methods would save countless lives across the stars. As Thompson left the council chamber, he found Commander Krull waiting for him. The Drachnid warrior held out a data crystal, the records of his brother's failed mission to Infernus. "We kept this as a memorial to their bravery," Krull said. "Now it will serve a different purpose. It will be the first lesson in our new training programs to show why courage without wisdom is just another word for recklessness. Thompson accepted the crystal with a nod. In the end, the humans hadn't just saved the galaxy from a plague. They had changed how an entire civilization fought about courage, wisdom, and the true meaning of strength. And somewhere on planet Infernus, the facility they had built continued its steady work, a monument to the idea that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take the time to do things right.